Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of Women and Manufacturing. I'm Lydia Di Liello, the CEO and founder of Capital Pricing Consultants, a revenue management consultancy. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Helen Mitchell. Helen is the Senior Director of Conferences and Events for the Professional Pricing Society. And I've had the honor of knowing Helen for many, many years, as I've been privileged to sit on their board of advisors. Helen, welcome to the program. We're thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Lydia. It is my honor to be here, and thank you for having me today.
Oh, our pleasure. So viewers, you're in for a treat today because I'd like to know how many of you have ever heard of a pricing society. And I'm willing to bet many of you haven't, but I think you're going to be really interested to learn that there's an organization built around educating manufacturers as well as other different industries, but that really got its roots in manufacturing. So Helen, tell us how Pricing Society was founded.
So the Pricing Society was actually founded by Eric Mitchell, and we are now 30 plus years old. I will share with you that he was a pricer for many companies, but in particular for Ford Motor Corporation. And so our cornerstone, our roots was in manufacturing. That was his specialty. And in addition, he really wanted to have a place where pricing executives, pricing training, pricing entry-level pricers would have a place to come and get training, and to be able to have a place where they can network and talk with each other about the art and the science of pricing. And so PPS has long, strong roots in the manufacturing area. And we continue to support that community as one of our key industries in our industry luncheon, which is really neat because other individual pricers and those in the training space can come and have the opportunity to meet others in the same industry. So if you're in manufacturing, we call ourselves the home of pricing. I would say we're the home of pricing for manufacturers.
You know, that's a wonderful picture that you paint, Helen, because since I've been fortunate to attend many of the conferences over the years and really see the learnings that take place from the attendees, you know, when you come in as a person who has been challenged with pricing in a manufacturing environment, with all of the issues of cost and material management and how many suppliers you have and how many distributors you have, it's a wonderful relief to meet other people who have the same problems or who can make suggestions or who can tell you, hey, don't do that. I tried this and it was a terrible result. So I think that networking is critically important, and knowing that there's a source out there for people to go to in manufacturing to get that help. And I think especially for women, because often our networks, we don't give ourselves the opportunity to network perhaps as strongly as our male counterparts. So I'm hopeful that all of us listening will take advantage of that, and that's a walk away from today, is to make sure we're building our networks along those lines.
I would say that's important.
And Helen, in terms of some of the things that you've seen over the years with manufacturing, I know that you offer a lot of different tracks or a lot of different learning opportunities. Can you speak about those?
So the one thing that you mentioned that immediately hit me is that over time, over our 30 plus years, we are finding that there are far more women who are coming to our conferences than had been when we originally started. So it is a perfect place, I think, of building a community of those that are having the same issues that you're having, to be able to benchmark and not only get from peer to peer, but also from experts who are at the conferences with solutions and information for those in that space, in the manufacturing space, that they can then not only consult with each other, but with experts who can say they know for a fact that, this is a good way to go and it's a good solution. At our conferences, we have a couple of ways that manufacturing women can network. One is in particular, and I think you've been a part of this, is the Infusion Luncheon, which gives a special opportunity for women per se, but it's for any conference attendee to come and talk about within their industry, within their specialty, within whatever their focus is, the opportunity to talk to each other about what's going on in their workplace, in their world, in the manufacturing space. So that's a luncheon that is just incredibly well received. In addition, we have tracks. So each of our afternoon tracks gives individuals the opportunity to, in a smaller setting, be able to meet and talk with experts as well, and those who are in the industry. And the last thing that has really grown over time, and this is really so well received, is our industry luncheon. And in the industry luncheon, all of the tables are identified by colors. And so the manufacturing space, those who are in the manufacturing industry, would go to certain tables where there would be conversation, questions, thought starters, someone in that space who would lead the discussion. And it's a great forum for people to really gravitate and have the opportunity to sit together to really discuss the real nuts and bolts of what's going on in the space. So I think those are the real, I would say, hands-on experience, walk away with real answers to current problems and situations in the industry that I think are just priceless.
And Helen, I would agree, because I've been fortunate to participate in those. And
you sure have.
Viewers, when you come to a conference, you want to walk away feeling that you got something out of it. One of the things that I find that's very valuable is if you're coming in with a specific issue, if, for example, your problem is everyone's costs have increased dramatically over the past 2 years because of COVID, right? It was just rampant and uncontrolled. And so then there's an opportunity to go sit at a table with people who are all marked as being in the same industry. You don't know what company until obviously you each introduce yourselves. But learning, for example, that someone in the auto industry or the plastics industry or the chemical industry or in the windows industry is having the same kinds of challenges that you're seeing. And here's the 3 things they've done to try to address it. And you really have an opportunity to start to share those ideas. And I think that's a very unique experience. And Helen, I loved when you said that, one of the things you've really seen over these past few decades, right, is an increase of women. I remember a time when if there were 10 women in the room, we were doing pretty good.
We were. Now
right?
it's by leaps and bounds. I mean, the women are pretty much equal to our men in our conference. And that's a big jump. That is a change. And I think that that's also probably reflected in the manufacturing industry and the space as well. I think the other thing that I find fascinating, and I love to see this happen, is when several individuals from the same company, and they may be from different parts of the company, they don't know that the other one is coming, but yet they're from the same company, and they have the opportunity not only to network in the industry of manufacturing, but also with a colleague who may, be across the country that they really don't see. But both have found that it's an opportunity to be in the space for training, in the space for development, in the space for networking. And so they end up at the same conference, and then they end up being from the same company. So, I mean, there's lots of synergy, there's lots of opportunities. I think I said this in the very beginning, manufacturing is our baby. It is the cornerstone by which we were founded and built. So we continue to elevate that. We continue to amp that up. We also have our online courses, and many of them are very specified and specific to manufacturing. Mm-hmm. So if you're thinking about, your growth and your change in this space, there's the opportunity for online courses and being able to communicate that way and to get your questions answered. There's lots of tools and lots of resources in this thing called Professional Pricing Society that some people say, what do you guys do? Like, what's going on over there? What I can share with you is that being a woman in manufacturing, we're the right spot. If you're looking for support, if you're looking for another avenue to meet others, I think you'll find Professional Pricing Society a good resource.
I completely agree, Helen. And the opportunities to go and to learn in a multitude of different ways, I think is so important, especially now, because while we have similar business challenges across not only manufacturing, but all industries, right?
Correct.
We also we all learn differently. Some of us prefer to learn in person. Some of us prefer to get some idea online first about a particular issue. Maybe I want to learn about how to address escalating costs. So I go online and I start there first. And then I decide, well, I want to take an all-day workshop, for example, when I'm at the conference to focus on that. And I think that's another place, another resource that people may not know about, which is, oftentimes you have to take continuing ed credits or something like that. The Professional Pricing Society has the Certified Professional Pricer. Speak to that a little bit, Helen, about how that can help a woman boost her career as well.
Wow, that's for me. So I'll use myself as an example. In my industry, the way to get doors opened and for people to really have a credible feeling about an event producer is to see that they have a certified meeting professional. You have a CMP designation after your name. Otherwise, you could just be someone who, started doing this stuff last week. We are finding that having that CPP designation, especially in various industries, but certainly women in particular and women in manufacturing, having that designation is a credibility factor. It's an opener. It's a way of differentiating yourself from the other pricers who may very well be within your company or outside your company. It's a way of you elevating, if you will, what learnings you have, what networking opportunities you have, the education and the training that you'll get from preparation to create and get that opportunity of the CPP for you. Many of the online courses that I talked about are the way to work your way to the CPP program, to the designation. And the other thing that you mentioned, Lydia, that I don't want to, I want to be sure that I really focus on, and that's the opportunity. We have at least 12 workshops at every conference. And what's the beauty of those is that in the specific industry, let's say manufacturing being the one we're talking about today, you get the opportunity to go all day long with other users, with other people in your industry, with experts who are benchmarking and giving you cases and real life answers. The other thing I think that's really unique is that there are several women who lead these workshops who are willing to take their time after the workshops to meet with you personally, one-on-one, where you really get to go in depth and talk about what your situation is. And I think That's something you don't find at most conferences, where the speakers are so giving of themselves that regardless of what the industry is, they can tell you what they would recommend you apply to your situation, from the online learning, from the all-day workshop learning. It is just, it's incredible. I mean, people are just lined up to speak to the workshop leaders about their very, very specific, unique situation that they want to take back to their company, so that they can improve things and change things. And so I think that any woman who is doubtful or wondering, am I doing the right thing? Or, is anyone listening at my company about what I think or what I say, to have that confirmation and to have that opportunity to have that kind of a conversation with someone else, especially a woman, is priceless in my mind.
I think that's a really, really important point, Helen, because that high touch interaction is a key differentiator that I personally have not found in other conferences I've ever attended. And so I think that that's so important, because when you're talking to experts, and most of these experts bring 20, 25, 30 years experience with them, and they have either been responsible for pricing at multinational companies, at global locations. So they have dealt with breadth and depth of pricing problems across really across most all circumstances we can think of. So having that caliber of folks being then willing to just stand around after for a half an hour or an hour and talk to each participant and say, okay, Helen, what's the challenge you're facing in your widget manufacturing, for example? And what's the one thing you want to solve and take back with you today to say, okay, I think I've got a way to go about this. So it's almost an opportunity to test out some things. And I think that that's very rare. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity of sharing for women. It's exciting to me because having been in the manufacturing space this long and seen the changes through PPS's eyes has really been fantastic.
I would agree. And I think the other thing for women who are just entering this space, and they came from a different segment of the company or a different location in the company or different way that they got to manufacturing, however, because we all take different paths to get to where we end up. I think the other thing that I love about it is it's almost like 3 days, 4 days of mentoring, because you can always go back to that person. If you think of something else, another way of looking at it, and they have given you some ideas, you always have the opportunity to circle back. And I think that as a person who's maybe new in the manufacturing space, just think of what that mentoring would feel like, to be able to, as a woman, not have to feel like, oh, I'm going to sit in front of my counterparts or those ahead of me to give an idea without testing it. I think you mentioned it, Lydia. It's a great way of just like running your idea before you have to actually take it back to your company and try it. So it's like a great way to just test, to have a mentor, to create a mentor relationship, somebody that later on, 6 months down the road, when you have another circumstance or another situation, you can talk with. If you're looking to shift gears or go to other jobs, or you're looking for other opportunities, this is a great place to do that kind of networking, so that in your industry, which is very large, you have lots of different ways to be able to connect with people and get real advice, real proven strategies and techniques that people can say have worked.
And that's also a key differentiator, Helen, right? Because for male or female, when someone is providing advice, if it's not tested, if it's not been proven out, it's great lip service. But what we want is something actionable and something we can trust. And then to your point about being able to go back in 6 months, because when you're talking about pricing, that's an ongoing evolution. That doesn't end. Today's challenge becomes hopefully tomorrow's opportunity, right? Where you've won it and you've got that deal, but then that leads to another set of challenges and opportunities. And so it's ongoing. And who do you look to say, okay, I got that far. Now what's my next step? And then where do you take that next challenge? So it's progressive. And I like that the resources are set up to be progressive as well, so that throughout someone's career, they have a place to go to say, okay, now I'm challenged with this, what do I do? And especially for women, as we've gone from being 5% to 50% in the last couple of decades within manufacturing pricing, I think it's a tremendous opportunity for women. So it's a great opportunity to talk with you, Helen. And as we close out here, you have any parting words for our listeners?
Well, yeah, I want to say a couple of things. First of all, I want to say how valuable I believe Lydia is to your industry, to you as a woman. I think that I've watched many years now her evolve and be able to walk and command attention in a professional way that I've just seen mushroom. So I want to say, first of all, if you're listening to this podcast, which I'm hoping you are, you will know that coming back here and hearing these kinds of conversations will be just invaluable. So I would say thank you, Lydia, for all that you've done in the industry and in this space for women and in manufacturing. So that I want to definitely say. And then I want to say that there are those that I consider to be friends of Professional Pricing Society, and that we have lots of those around the globe. And so if it's your endeavor to stretch your network, to grow your network, to get in touch with the brightest minds in this space, in this field, then I would say, come join us. Come to one of our conferences. There are 2 held in the spring and the fall in the United States. And then if you're outside of the US, in the fall of the year, in the very end of the year, we go to Europe. And so we're in the European space. I would say also consider becoming a member of Professional Pricing Society so that you get the most current information. So check out our website, professionalpricingsociety.com. Check us out on LinkedIn. Our next conference is coming up May 3 through 5 in Dallas, Texas, in Addison, just outside of Dallas. And then in the fall, we'll be here in Atlanta in our home meeting in October. So there's lots of opportunities. There's newsletter, there's a mobile app. You can connect with us in various and in sundry ways. I would say reach out and start connecting with us in what way makes sense to you. So thank you so much, Lydia, for all you do. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about women in any space, but in particular in manufacturing. I'm so honored to be able to have been asked to come and share today. And I look forward to many of you joining. And if you see me at any of the PPS conferences, please do introduce yourself. I'd be happy to say a special hello. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Helen, very much for the kind words. They're most appreciated. And for our listeners, I hope that you walk away today with knowledge that you didn't have before in terms of resources. If you've been challenged with a costing problem, if you've been challenged with a pricing problem, if your boss has said to you, oh, here you go, here's 25 years of legacy pricing, we don't know how to figure this out. And oh, by the way, I'd like it fixed in 6 months, which, right, Helen, you're laughing because it's a story we hear constantly, right? And
yes.
It's real. So
it's real.
We want to give all of our listeners a place to come to get resources that are real, that will honestly help you and move you along in your career at the same time. So it was my pleasure, Helen, to have you as my guest. So again, thank you, Helen Mitchell from the Professional Pricing Society. And for all of you listeners, please remember that we have 3 other broadcasts available to you on Manufacturing Talk Radio, including Manufacturing Matters with Cliff Waldman, Hazard Girls, and you remember that that highlights women in unusual roles. And we have, of course, Women in Manufacturing. So until next time, thank you.
Thank you.